Hi! Today I'm going to be showing you how I made these thrift flips. Watch me succeed, watch me fail, watch me try my best, and there definitely was a thrift flip or two where I struggled a lot, but hopefully this can give you some ideas on what you can do when you don't know what to do with your own clothes. The first item I was thrift flipping was this American Eagle romper with a ruched back. My plan was to turn this into a wrap skirt. The first thing I do with most of the thrift flips that I have to restructure the entire fabric is rip open all the seams. Wherever I need to save the fabric, I'll rip the seams rather than cut them so I have the maximum amount of fabric left over. Here I'm cutting the fabric of the seam of the shorts and right below the waistband. After cutting off the bottom of the romper, this was my leftover fabric laid flat. I left the lining of the shorts inside the original structure and I'd figure out what I'd do with that later. Then I pinned the fabric in the shape I wanted to sew the skirt in a way that allowed me to preserve the pockets. Oh my god. The only weird thing about this was that there was a bunch of extra fabric in the back of the skirt. So I sewed a dart on the inside of the fabric to cover that up and cut the extra fabric off. When I need to sew a hem that's not staying flat, I use my iron to flatten it all out, and that makes it a lot easier to sew. I'm going to iron the top of this part down so it'll be easier to sew into the sewing machine. So I had to sew a hem on the top of the skirt as well as on both sides of it. So the trick I'm using to prevent having to try on the skirt again and again is to measure the length of the skirt I'm sewing with a skirt that already fits me. So I measured out this way and then I flip it over to see how much fabric I need. This is a wrap skirt, so I need a little bit of extra fabric, but that's how I can tell how long the skirt needs to be without trying it on again and again. So for the strings that would hold a wrap skirt, I want to use the same fabric that I had before, so that it would match the fabric that I was working with already. And luckily my romper had two strings that came with it, so I cut those out of the original piece and then I put those inside the new one. But when I put the strings together, it was actually too short, so what I did was wherever the strings were showing, I kept the original string, but then in the middle I put another piece of fabric in between that wouldn't show and just be on the inside of the skirt. So this way the outfit looked more cohesive because it looked like the strings were already a part of the fabric I was working with. After sealing up the seam with a very tight zigzag stitch, which is how I serge things, I went back to the top of the hem and created a loop to pull the string of the skirt through. Always make sure to backstitch on your fabric so that the pieces don't just fall apart randomly when you're trying to wear them or when you're in public, because that would be really bad, so always backstitch. Here is me pulling the string through the skirt with the help of a safety pin. As you can see, the skirt wasn't ugly. It was just way too short. Like, if it was longer, I definitely would have worn that and I would have kept it as it was, but I didn't account for how much fabric I would need for the top. I tried so many different methods with this. I tried to make it longer, I tried to make it tighter on some parts using the ruched fabric, and I tried so many different cuts of a skirt, but it just was not working and I was not succeeding. So this is one of those thrift flips where I was failing. But I do succeed in the later part of this. I succeeded by making this really cool top. Using the ruched fabric of the back of the top, I was able to sew the fabric into a tube shape that was made of 3 panels in the back and 1 in the front. The reason I had to break it into so many panels was because I didn't have enough fabric that was like quite wide enough, so I just sewed together different pieces to make one big piece. Then I attached an elastic on the bottom of the top to make it more form-fitting and create a sort of puff at the bottom of the top. I didn't have a thin elastic, but if it was thinner it would definitely look better. If you don't have thin elastic, you can also cut it in half, but I didn't do that for this because I thought it would just be okay. And finally, for the sleeves, I folded a piece of the fabric about every 1 inch so that it would create a ruffle design, and I sewed on top of the fold. Looking back at it, I probably should have made the folds closer together, probably at like 1 centimeter each, to make the ruffle more dramatic and look even more intentional. Right now it's kind of too loose. If I made the strap shorter, then it would work better. So that's something I need to go back and fix still. And I should have added more ruffles. So this was my potential failure turning into something more successful. And I think the top is so awesome. I wear it all the time now. And even though I couldn't make it the really cute skirt it would have been, I now have a cool top, all made from clothes I already had. So this is the next top that I was working with. For this top, what I'm gonna do is change the neckline into a straight neckline. I'm gonna rip the seams for the straps because that's where I'm trying to save fabric and maintain the structure of the shirt. I got this strap out, so this strap is in good shape and I just have to do the same thing to the other side. And this part I will not seam rip, I'm just gonna cut across. After I cut across the top, I folded the fabric where I wanted to create a new hem, and ironed the fabric to make it easier to sew. I added some pins to make it extra secure while I was sewing. Finally, I sewed the new hem. Okay, so I changed the neckline. As you can see here, I put in 2 small darts on the side to take in the fabric a little more because it's like sagging. This new weird shape inspired me to create a festival top. I cut the bottom and hemmed it, and created 2 small flaps on the sides where I tied the top. This is the finished version of the top. I like this top because it's something you can't always find in the store, and I made it using something I already had. With this skirt, I only want to change the outdated rounded hem to a straight across one. The denim I used was from another pair I cut up for a different project. I started by ripping the seams of the denim I was going to use as patches. Once I knew how much patchwork fabric I was working with, I ironed the skirt and patchwork denim to make it easier to work with. I cut out some rectangular shapes that I thought would look good with my skirt, and then folded the fabric where I wanted to create a new hem or mend the old one. I went over these hems with an iron again, just to make it easier to sew. I pinned the fabric where I wanted to lie on the skirt. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed up all the seams on where I pinned the skirt and so it looks. So I sewed everything onto where I pinned it, and I hemmed some of the edges, but some of them I left raw because that's the look I wanted. There's an awkward gap where the old skirt starts and then the new skirt hem starts. So I have to put a piece of fabric there to make it more seamless. So this is the final skirt. I'm actually really surprised at how this turned out because I was like not sure how it's gonna look with the patchwork, but it looks like surprisingly good to me. I think it has like almost a futuristic vibe going on. I always have some of those pieces where I'm like, I only bought this because this was on trend, and this skirt was definitely one of those pieces, and I always regretted buying it because I only wore it a few times. But now I'm like totally in love with this new hem and this new like asymmetric design. Okay, so the next DIY I'll be talking about is how I fix my super ripped up jeans. I used to have this pair of jeans that I really loved because they were the perfect shape and the perfect material for me, but I couldn't wear them anymore because they were so distressed at the knees that they became 2 gaping holes in the material. They just looked so terrible when I wore them. So I use this trick to make the jeans last longer, and I do this with a lot of denim I have. So taking some older jeans that I could not fix because they were also way too distressed. If you see a pattern here, I love distressed jeans. So the old jeans were too distressed and too small, so it would be hard to resell them. So I chose to use the fabric in a different project. I measured out material from the old pair of jeans on where I needed to cut it, and then I attached those cut up scraps onto my new pair of jeans right here. And I eventually just sewed them on top of my new jeans, and it looks like they're now a part of my new jeans. Now I can actually bend my knees in these jeans without being afraid that the distressing will rip again and again. And these are my favorite jeans again because the fit is great, the material is great, and I had something to do with making them wearable again. So I love that. So just to show you another way that you can do the same exact thing on any pair of denim you need to repair, I'm going to show you how I did that to this pair of shorts as well. So these pair of shorts had the same exact problem where they were super distressed, and then if I wore them like for 1 month, the distressing just completely ripped off. So I had more denim scraps from a pair of jeans I cut off the bottom from. So I really recommend keeping any denim scraps you have, especially if it's really good quality denim, like 100% cotton or close to that. The distressing on this pair of shorts was ripped in 2 places, right here and on the opposite side right here as well. But then I took my old denim scraps and I put them right behind the distressing, and now when I wear it, it just looks like they're a part of the actual shorts and you can't even tell. With these shorts, it's definitely like a look you have to want to rock, but with these shorts it's super subtle, and if you don't like any crazy looking denim, then this is a really easy way to make your shorts last longer too. Just like the other pants, I can actually like bend my knees without being afraid that these jeans are just gonna like rip at any second possible. Also, some more helpful tips for sewing with denim is don't be afraid to use pins, don't be afraid to hand stitch some stuff that you'll need, and try to have a denim needle and denim thread because that'll make your alterations come together much more nicely and much more easily without breaking any needles in the sewing machine. And I tend to use hand sewing on a lot of denim alterations because it's really hard, even with the denim needle and denim thread, sometimes to like get your pants perfectly in the sewing machine without completely cutting them open, which I really hate to do when there's a perfectly good seam already.